Here we are, the free meal planning workshop. Um, if you haven't had the chance yet, I would love for you to introduce yourself so we can get to know you a little better and maybe say where you're from or your experience with meal planning or what you're currently struggling with or why you're tuning in. And I will do my best to answer all of those questions at the end of the little presentation here. So you're in the right place if you are interested in meal planning. Now, I know that the email that I sent out that was kind of the confirmation and asked for, you to reply and just tell me a little about maybe what you're struggling with. I did get some responses that were more geared toward like meal prepping, like how to cook everything all in one day and the containers to use. And I have done that before. That in itself could be a whole separate presentation. And I got so many of those responses that I was like, maybe I should do one on this as well. Like a lot of people seem interested in this. So I'm not going to be talking about that as much tonight, but I think that is a great thing to do. And I might turn it into another free workshop if there's enough interest. So just let me know. Now, before we get started, I do have a confession to make. And that is that I do not love to cook or meal plan. Honestly, I really just I don't love it. So I want you to know that if you don't love to cook or meal plan, I hope you are comforted by that fact. Like you do not have to love it in order to do this successfully. So that's hopefully good news. But I know that if I don't meal plan, I have almost like 0% chance of successfully meeting my goals, which are currently having like calm, peaceful family dinners, regularly eating healthy meals and not relying on convenience foods, and losing weight because I have 7 kids, but I've birthed 6 of them. And my body seems to think of baby weight as like lovely souvenirs it doesn't want to let go of. And I'm like, we have the kids, we don't need to keep the baby weight. And it just doesn't seem to get the message. So that is one of my goals. And I know that if I don't meal plan, we will most likely either order something out, we'll DoorDash something, we'll grab fast food. It's just so easy to grab those convenience foods that then, leave me not feeling good and definitely farther away from that weight loss goal that I ultimately have. So that's one, those are some of the reasons that meal planning is really important to me and why I'm prioritizing it in my life. And hopefully, some of the tips I share today and some of the things that we do will make it easier for you to do it in your home as well. So this is a picture of my sweet kiddos. Uh, this was a little over a year and a half. I think it was Christmas of 2020. So they're all a little over a year older than they were there. But we have a lot of mouths to feed. And that's another reason why meal planning is so important, because with this many people in the house, it can be hard to just throw something together with what's in our pantry. I was an only child raised by a single mom, so my mom could kind of get away with that. She still to this day doesn't really meal plan because she doesn't really have to. It's just her and it was just the two of us growing when I was growing up. So she could kind of just throw something together. But as you get a bigger family, it can get harder. And even for people who, I think there are benefits for everyone to meal plan. So I think it would be great if my mom did. She has even said I should start doing that. She just never has. So please don't think this is only for large families. It's for everyone. But that's just been my experience with growing up and now with having my own kiddos. So I know one concern that was brought up time and time again in those emails that I got back from people were the trouble people were having with cooking for different dietary preferences. So in our family alone, we have people who are allergic to eggs and dairy and tree nuts and peanuts and sensitive to gluten. And it is crazy. The list seems to grow with every child we add to the family. And the good news is that this meal planning can work for anything. You get to choose your meals and make them work for your lifestyle. So that really is not an issue. It might be a little harder, especially if you're, just having to start to phase some of those things out. I know that's one thing that I've had to get used to is, when we cut out gluten, it's like, oh my goodness, what do we eat now? I grew up on bread and pasta and all that kind of stuff. So, and no, we can't have peanut butter and jelly sandwiches anymore. And oh my goodness, but you can really make this work for any lifestyle or dietary needs that you need to. So the first step to meal planning is really looking at your calendar. So I like to personally plan 1 week at a time. That is pretty much all our budget and house can allow for at this time. We need so much food at once. I couldn't even store the amount of food we would need if I wanted to plan for like a month at a time right now. But you can do this for any amount of time that you like. So some people like to plan 2 weeks at a time. Some people do a month at a time. You can really make it work for whatever you want to do. But I like to work in 1 week chunks. So when I start and sit down to meal plan, the first thing I do is look at my week and I look to see, okay, what kinds of things do I have coming up this week? Are there any really crazy busy nights? Are there any days that we are going to be out of the house and I'm not going to be able to cook? Are there any days when I have a ton of downtime and I might be able to spend more time in the kitchen? This is really important because when I started meal planning, I would not look at my calendar. I would just go through and choose meals that sounded good or that I wanted to try. Um, and then when it came to making them, I would be completely overwhelmed that we wouldn't have enough time. We'd be running out to soccer games and school functions, whatever it was. And I realized that the first step really needs to be considering what you have coming up in the week. So for our family, Wednesday is a really busy night. My daughter is in dance and she has like 3 hours worth of dance classes on Wednesdays. So I know that Wednesday night is not the night that I'm going to be like busting out a turducken and making, whatever other time intensive, complicated meal you can think of. Wednesday nights are going to be the nights when I, like in the morning, throw something in the crock pot or have maybe that's leftover night. It's going to be something that's super, super easy because if it's not easy, I'm probably going to want to grab something that's easy and then I'm, going to regret it and not feel good. So, calendar, looking at your calendar is very important. I also think it is so important to think about like what stage of life are you in right now? So I know that for myself, when I am um, like pregnant or when we have babies, I am not going to be filling our meal plan with lots of complicated, time consuming meals. I mean, honestly, like I said, I don't hate cooking, but it's not my most favorite thing to do. I usually don't start until my husband gets home. And the last thing I really want to do when he gets home and I finally have someone to help with all our kids is to go do more work. Like, I would much rather go have a little quiet time somewhere or read a book or paint a little or have some time for myself. Um, but I can't always do that if I don't plan accordingly. So that is something really to take into consideration too. Like, what season of life are you in right now? What do you have going on right now? And maybe this is a season of really easy meals, and that's okay. I'm going to have some recommendations for you. A lot of people did ask for specific recipes. I wasn't necessarily going to go into a lot of specific recipes, but there was so much interest in that I thought I would compile a list and send that out as well. I just don't have it for exactly today. But I can send that in an email in the next couple days or so that hopefully you can get some new ideas of things that you can eat and throw together kind of at the last minute. Because I know for myself, the real key to actually getting dinner on the table on a night like our Wednesday nights is if I can make the meal that we have at home easier than eating out or ordering food or driving through the drive through. If I can make our home meal like brainlessly easy, we'll just do it. Even if even if I do want to go get something else, if I can make it a no-brainer, I will actually follow through. So the easier you can make it on yourself, if you relate to that at all, the better in my opinion. The next thing you want to do is shop your home. So this is when I go through our pantry, our freezer, our fridge, and I take stock of what we already have. Um, Things have, I'm sure everyone's feeling it right now. Food prices are just skyrocketing, it feels like, especially for as many kids as we have. Our grocery bills, I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, if they ask where their college money is, I'll say it kept you alive when you were little. That it went to food. I mean, I know it's really gotten expensive for people. So this is a great way to make the most of your budget, to like reduce food waste. Um, Once upon a time when I started meal planning, I would just go through and choose meals that sounded good. And I wouldn't even, I would like start fresh every week, even though we had food left over in the fridge. And then we would end up throwing food out, which I always hated. And that's why I started doing the shop your home first. It's really important, in my opinion, to stretch the dollar and to hopefully waste as little food as possible, to check your fridge, check your pantry, see if you have any leftovers. That's one of my favorite things is when we have meals left over from the week before, then one night literally becomes leftovers. And that's like, I don't need to do any more planning than that for that day. Um, but this is, the way to make the most of your money and all the food that you already have in your home. And then step three is choose your meals. So the way that I choose our meals is, like I said, first I look at that food that we have. I try to piece together recipes based on, maybe what we already have a lot of in our pantry. So if we have like a bunch of beans, maybe we'll have a chili night, or if we have foods that are about to expire, I make sure that those go onto our next day or two meal plan so that we can use it up before it goes bad. And then once I consider everything that we already have at home already, I um, I like to grab either cookbooks or think of family favorites. It really depends on that calendar, what we have going on in the week. If I have some time to spend in the kitchen and I feel like spicing things up a little bit, want to try something new, I will bust out a stack of cookbooks and flip through and see if there's anything new that sounds good, or even visit some different recipes and websites and get ideas there. There are so many amazing resources. You don't even need cookbooks anymore, um, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I like having some cookbooks around, but there are so many resources, for free online too. So um, the key there is thinking about what your week looks like, how much time you have, how busy you're going to be, and then, how much time do you really want to spend in the kitchen. Um, I also think it's important to be realistic about how ambitious you want to be. So there were times when every night of our meal plan was like a new recipe. And, 3 or 4 days in, I'd be exhausted and I wouldn't want to do it anymore. And what I know now is I need to build easy days in along with, if I want to try some new recipes, some new things. So some of my favorite easy meals are things like a sheet pan dinner. That's also a great way to empty out your veggie bin. So if it's a day or two before, things are going to go bad, or before a big grocery trip, I like to look in the fridge, get all the little random vegetables that are around, maybe half a bag of baby carrots and the squash that I forgot to use, or whatever it is, the last little remnants of the red potato bag, and I chop it all up, put it on a sheet pan. You can add an oil, you can add some spices, the meat of your choice. We sometimes use chicken, we sometimes use kielbasa, and it's so easy to just shove in the oven for 25 minutes or whatever, and then dinner's done. You've got your healthy meat, your veggies, and it tastes good. And you're also using up all those kind of little random things that maybe you didn't have enough of to just make one big serving of that on its own. Um, let's see here. So, oh yes, there is. a really neat website that I have used. I'll send a link to it, and some of the other resources that I mentioned through this. I'll send in the email with the replay so that you don't have to like hunt all these things down. Um, but there's a neat website that I use that you can save all the recipes that you find online, and then you can like drag and drop them through different days of the week, and it will automatically make a shopping list for you. So that is a really easy way to compile your shopping list or your meal plan. I think you can even upload your own recipes. That part, that can take a little bit of time, but once it's in there, it's in there. So that's nice. You don't have to do it over and over again. And then another way that you can help to make life easier is by possibly even doing some type of meal plan service. So a lot of people have, I've never tried, I don't think I've tried Blue Apron. I tried one of them a while ago, but they're those meal plan things where it's like everything's prepped for you and you just kind of throw it together. That could also be an option if you're in a busy stage of life, or maybe you want to try some different meals, but you don't necessarily want to do all the hunting down ingredients and piecing all the little pieces together yourself. Um, we have some friends who just they love the Blue Apron meals, and they are constantly like they save the little recipe cards and they remake the recipes. So that could be another way to fill in like easy healthy recipes. And there are other, you can get them for all kinds of things. Like they have paleo plans, and not just Blue Apron. There's like organic lines, and there are all kinds of companies out there. Um, so if you are in one of those seasons of life where it's just like, you know, it's just too it's too hard to be meal planning and making these things all the time, then that is a great option. I know for myself, I laugh thinking back to when my husband and I were first married, so about a year into our marriage, and I I had no idea what was going on in the kitchen. My idea of like a gourmet home cooked meal was like steamer vegetables in the microwave and like, pasta that like the pre-made tortellini that I just put in boiling water at home, and canned spaghetti sauce, which I still love all that stuff. But that was like the extent of my cooking ability at that time. And I know when I was like 7 months pregnant with our daughter, and I made Ina Garten's chicken pot pie. I had no idea how to time things in a kitchen at that time of my life. So this pot pie took me 4 hours at 7 months pregnant. I was in so much pain by the end of that meal. I said to my husband, enjoy it because I'm never making it again. And I've stayed true to that. I literally have never made it again. My feet hurt just thinking about it. Um, but I know, I mean, that was my first pregnancy. I was definitely ambitious. I know now after 6 of them that like the second that stick says, you're expecting, I'm like, I'm easy meals from here on out. So take that season of life into consideration because it's an important one. Okay, the next thing I do is add everything to a shopping list. So I like to make my shopping list as I am adding my recipes to my meal plan, as opposed to, choosing meals and then having to go back and piece things together. And you can even take this a step further. This is something that I keep saying I'm going to do, and I think I've only done it once so far. My goal would be to make like 8 of these, but you can even like label everything as you make them. So you basically make a meal plan and you can recycle it over and over and over again. That is my ultimate goal. Like I said, I've only done it like once or twice so far. But the way I see that happening is, and the way I've done it before, is as I'm writing things out, I will write like some type of code for the meal at the end of it. So maybe I've highlighted, I'll show you what I use to meal plan in just a second, but I have a free printable that I made. It's on my blog. I'll send a link to that too if you want it. And I will sometimes highlight the meal. And then as I write the ingredients, I'll highlight the ingredients. That way, if I reuse that in the future, And I say I don't want to make one of the meals. I just know which ingredients I don't have to buy that week. Um, so that is like my ultimate vision, is to kind of make pre-made weekly meal plans so that I don't have to do this all the time, because like I said, I really don't enjoy it. There are other things I would like to do with my life than plan these meals all the time. But when I have done that, that has really made things a lot easier. Another thing that can make things easier is, okay, I'm sorry, I heard knocking. That totally freaked me out. Because I kicked my family out of the house. So there's like no one here. So so if there's knocking, that was a little creepy. Um, and I lost my train of thought. Let's see, what was I talking about? Meal planning. I know that much. Um, Darn it. Hopefully it'll come back. All right. It was brilliant. Whatever it was a good one. um, so as I make my list, I also will double check then to make sure that I have all of the ingredients that I need. And if I do have the ingredient, to make sure I have the right quantities. A lot of the times we have food to buy, and that's okay. But it's nice when I can double check and make sure, oh, okay, we already have, you know, these things, we don't need to buy those this week. So this is what the meal plan tracker I made years ago and I still use to this day looks like. Like I said, I will send a link to this in that email with a replay. I'll send all this stuff so it's super easy to find. But the way I use this is I will write usually along the top where you see the letters. Just FYI, I use an R for Thursday. That's something that one of the colleges I went to did, and it's just stuck with me. So it's not a typo. I know some people hate it. My apologies. But that's what that stands for, Thursday. But I will write like what we have going on usually at the top, just to remind myself. Then I will fill in our foods. The one that I usually mainly plan is dinner. That's the one that I have to give the most thought to. But I'll write in the breakfast and lunch too, because we are here all the time. We homeschool our kids. Our kids are here all the time, so all these meals are falling on me, and I want to make sure that we have what we need, so I don't have to haul everyone out of the house, because that's a lot of kids to wrangle. Um, Another thing I do is I will create different columns on my list. So on the right side, I always write check for. Those are usually ingredients that I think we might have, but I'm not sure how much we have. And then I will also write this. So we get most of our groceries at Costco or our local Kroger. And for some reason, I don't write Kroger. I just write fresh and aisles, and then I write Costco. I don't know why. This is just the way I do it right now. But what I do when I make these lists, especially for Costco, because that's the one that my husband does, is I will try to put everything in the order that he can find it in the store. And the reason I started doing that was years ago when our first couple babies were little still. He would go to the store and he would be gone for like a ton of time. And I'd be like, what is taking him so long? I don't know why. I just don't like meal planning or grocery shopping very much. So he's kind enough to, take on that chore and task for the family. But it would just take him forever. And then I realized that he was having to backtrack. He'd go and get one thing, and then he'd go back to the other side of the store. And I thought, if I can just make this easier for myself as well, when I do have to do the grocery shopping, it's so much easier if you can think about kind of how things are laid out in the store, so you can just, bop through it in the right order. So that's what I do for my different stores that we shop at. But you can also do these, and this is one reason why I've left the kind of colored bars open, so that you can label these however it works for you. So you could label this as, meat and dairy and fruits and vegetables. Like, it does not have to be my weird way of doing it here. make it work for the way you go through the store. Oh, is that another one? Oh, well, that's it. So let me stop with the share. So there are questions that I got and wanted to help people with too. So let me go through those quickly. And then if you have, yes, Pam, remember to write the cookbook and page number on your meal plan. Yes, I do that as well. So that is a huge help because there were years when I didn't do that. And then you're left wondering like, what was this chicken cacciatore recipe from? Or I also will write the website. Sometimes I write a little code at the top of my list. So if I'm using multiple cookbooks, I know that, um, AAG means against all grain, or, whatever it is. And then the page number so that you can find it easily. Another thing that I do is I sometimes put post-it notes in there on the page so that you don't have to flip and go through and try to find it. It's just easy to spot and find. Um, Now, I know a lot of people said that one issue they have with meal planning is they just don't feel like cooking. And I can relate. My favorite thing to do for nights when I don't feel like cooking, um, you have to plan ahead of time, unfortunately, but it's to have a stash of easy to make and like ready to go meals. Um, so if I can make the meal that we have at home, like I said before, easier than ordering takeout, I'll be able to stick to it. It's when the meal that you're making at home feels like so much harder to make, or you're making it at a rough time, that I think it's hard to stick to. So on that topic, as far as like time of day, another thing I will do is I will sometimes cook the meals in the morning. So that's great for meal plans and or for crock pot meals and all that. Those usually have to go in hours before you have them. But I also do it for things like if I already have the cutting board and the knife out and I'm cutting up, grapes for the kids' lunch, or, you know, chicken for the baby or whatever it is, I'm already doing all the chopping and stuff. I'll pull out the stuff for dinner and just get that done really fast too. That way I don't have to, get everything dirty again. I've done that for uh a while now and it works out really well. Um another thing, another question that I got was how to prep in between like kids sporting events, or um when you just have a lot going on. So I know that I tend to do best when I prepare things earlier in the day. If I wait until my husband gets home, or I'm tired, I usually get, kind of like the last thing I want to do is go to the kitchen when he's home. Um, I do a lot better sticking to the meal plan if I can get that stuff done when I have energy. So if you can think about when during the day do you actually feel like you have the most energy. These tasks, like the prep tasks and even putting things together, can really help. Uh, so that when you don't feel like doing it at dinner time, you can actually stick to it. Um, let's see here. Another great thing about meal planning is that you are okay, so one question I got was they're worried about buying too much food. So they're buying food and they were wasting it. They couldn't get through it fast enough. And I think that tends to happen when people are buying food based on what looks good as they walk through the store versus based on, what their plan is for the week. If you are making a meal plan and you still find yourself overbuying, I would take note of that and kind of like jot down like how much you are actually going through and then just adjust accordingly. Um, but that is one thing that has really helped in our home, our budget, and also the reducing the food waste is having a plan, and then we buy just what's on the plan and not much more, versus buying lots of random things and then trying to piece something together just because it looked good when you were walking by it. Um, Now, someone asked, how do we deal with like items that need to be thawed? One thing that I do is I will remind myself by just setting a timer on my phone. I've also sometimes highlighted meals on my meal plan if they need to be like prepped ahead of time. And then that reminds me that, oh, this is something I need to do in the morning versus last minute at night at dinner time. Um, Trying to make sure I get through all of these. And if you have any, you can put them in the comments. I'm about to check that in just a minute. Okay, so another big question that I got a lot was, how do you meal plan or how do you stick to it when you don't feel like eating what you have scheduled for that day? And while I do take my calendar into account and I do meal plan for the week, I do not stick to where we have to eat this meal on that day. I like to have some flexibility. So really I have meal options for the week. And then I kind of pick and choose based on what I feel like cooking that night. But I do keep in mind, how much time it, the meals that I do tend to stick to are the meals on those days when we are really busy and I know that I'm not going to have a lot of time. I do work to save those easy meals for those um, those busy nights. Let's see. So I think that is just about it. I feel like I am possibly forgetting something, and if I am, I will include it in that email. Um, the last thing here was people were saying they have trouble sticking to the meal plan they make, and what can they do about that? And I would, if you find yourself like coming up with a plan and then routinely feeling like, I don't, I don't want to do this, or I'm not excited about what any of these options. Um, I would kind of think about what has you not excited about it. Like, is it that it's too time consuming? Is it food that you're not really liking? Or is it just, is it too complicated? Do you need to fill your meal plan with easier meals that you can actually stick to? Um, and then sometimes, I mean, I hate to say it, but sometimes we just have to force ourselves to do it, which is no fun. But sometimes we just have to, like, well, this is what we're having. If you don't want to eat out and you remove it as an option, um sometimes just forcing yourself to get into the habit of doing it can make it easier. So okay, let me see, I see questions popping up here. Let me scroll up and see. Cynthia says, so true, it's kind of a self-care to keep yourself healthy. Yeah, it is. That is one thing. If you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen I've been on a health journey this year. I started in January. It's quite possibly one of the only New Year's resolutions I've ever had that's actually stuck for a while. Um, but it's a program called Faster Way to Fat Loss. It focuses on um, your food and your physical fitness, working out, and all that kind of stuff. And I will tell you, I did not realize how bad I was feeling from all the processed and packaged foods and stuff that I was eating until I started to feel better. So it is definitely it's definitely self-care. Um, and it's been pretty amazing just how quickly I started to feel differently and how much better I feel now based on, when I started. I still have a long way to go, unfortunately. This is going to be an epic journey. It's going to be a while, but that's okay. It's good. It's going in the right direction. Um, yeah, so I don't know the name. It says iPad too. So apologies for not saying your name, but I used to have a master sheet of meals we like. Yes, that actually reminds me. So someone mentioned, how do you work on meals when someone was overseas and they said they never know what's going to be on sale, but how do you plan budget friendly meals when when you don't know, what's going to be available. So my advice for that would be to do exactly this, to have a master plan of meals that you like. It's your go-to meals. And then when you see what's on sale, whether it's going through the store or whatever, you can shop accordingly. You already know, okay, when chicken's on sale, these are the meals we like, or when beef is on sale, these are the meals that we will like. And then the freezer is, a wonderful tool too. So you don't have to have a week full of chicken or a week full of beef. You can, you know, freeze some of it and use it later. That's another thing that has really helped our family, and just my sanity is cooking like twice as much food and then freezing half of it. I don't do that with new recipes because I don't know if we're going to like them. And the last thing I want to do after having a bad recipe is eat it again. So I will, if we're trying a new recipe, only do it once. But for family favorites, I will do like twice as much, freeze a portion of it, and then I know that I've got dinner made again. And you can do things like, we have a great family rigatoni recipe that we love, and I won't freeze the noodles, but I'll make the sauce and freeze the sauce, and then all I have to do is, warm that up, cook noodles, and we're done, and we have a great meal. So um, definitely use the freezer to make the most of your time and give yourself some future, nights off of cooking. Kelly says, I like to grab a cookbook and have my kids pick random page numbers and meal to put on the menu. Well, that's fun. Yeah, you're a brave woman. I let my kids help me somewhat, but I've never done the total random thing. So that's fun though. And I know I said I would talk about picky eaters. So speaking of kids, um, one thing that can really help with, if you have a child who maybe has, tendencies and like not like certain foods, if they play a role in making that food, they are more likely to at least try it or be interested in it. I also got some questions about, what do I do if my child doesn't want to eat the meal, or possibly cooking multiple meals. And I will tell you, I have a rule in my house. I do not make multiple meals, but I also don't force my kids to eat what I make, because there are certain things that I hate, certain foods that I do not enjoy, and I would not want someone to force me to eat that. I do encourage them to try it, just take a bite. You don't know if you don't like it until you taste it. And they usually do that. And if they don't like it, then I say, okay, well, you can have something else then. And I usually have, like lunch meats, or Costco has some great grilled chicken skewers. Those are really great to grab for a quick, meal. They can still have like the salad or the veggies that we're having or whatever. But for our family, I find that just helps to keep everything very peaceful, and I don't have to cook 20 million things because, like I said, I mean, just cooking one meal is enough for me. So Pam says, I write in the cookbooks the date, recipe adjustments, and whether or not we like it, along with post-it tags. Yes, so that is one thing. I don't usually write the date, but I do that same. One thing I also do in our recipes, because our family is so big, but you could also do this just to make additional quantities, is I will write in different colors. So like if I want to double the meal, I'll do all the conversions in like maybe a blue pen. Then if I want to quadruple it, because our family is so big, that's a double recipe for us. I'll maybe write that in blue or in red or whatever different color. So it's easy to track them, and I'm not having to do all the conversions all the time, for every single time we make it. If you find yourself doing like tasks repeatedly, that's a really good tip, is just find a way to just do it once, and then you don't have to do it anymore. And writing it in the book makes it super easy. You don't have to worry about pages falling, or that, like a note falling out or something. Um, Charlene says she just learned that you can cook tilapia from frozen in the microwave for 2 minutes each side, and it comes out great. Put butter on the fish too. I like fish. That was the easiest recipe I've ever found. Wow, that does sound easy. I won't lie, we are not a fish family. I wish, like, the most we eat is like fish sticks, not very refined palates over here. But for anyone who likes fish, that does sound like an amazing option. How do boxed meals fit into the meal plan, and are they a good idea? That is really up to you. Um, I know that, we used to do a lot more of those. I am now trying to go more towards like a whole food, um, meal plan. But there's no reason, like I said, this can work for any, dietary likes and interests and, preferences. So you can definitely do some type of boxed meal. Um, you just, put it on whatever day you want to do it and then write down whatever other ingredients you need. So that's totally up to you. Charlene says, everything I've been making all these years are just plain boring to me. Meatloaf, chicken, beef, repeat. That sounds like it's a good time to try some new recipes then. Um, I definitely know it's not fun to be in a food rut, you know? So maybe branching out into some different types of foods or yeah, different, maybe some fish like the tilapia um would help you spice it up a little bit. Let's see. I also like the idea of prepping a few items that are easy to turn into multiple meals, like baked chicken and eat it with sides or a sandwich on a salad. Yeah. Yeah. So that is another thing. It kind of goes more towards meal prepping than meal planning. But one thing that you can do is batch cooking. So some people, they talk about this a lot on the faster way that I'm doing right now. A lot of people will batch cook like their protein. The faster way talks a lot about doing macronutrients. We track our macros, so fats, proteins, and carbs, and then we have those. We have those at every meal and all that kind of stuff. So people will make a bunch of ground beef or a bunch of chicken and then do that exact thing. They will have some type of like taco salad or they have chicken salad. And then later, if they add like a barbecue sauce, it can be, like kind of like a barbecue chicken sandwich type thing or entree. Um, so that is another great point is you can make one batch of or a couple batches of something and then use it in different ways throughout the week so that you're not having to start from scratch for every meal. Let's see. Instant Pot saves a lot of time. Yes, the Instant Pot is great. One thing I love about that is um, sometimes I forget to put those crock pot meals and for out of or any frozen meal into my fridge. And with an Instant Pot, you can usually uh, cook it a lot faster. You don't have to wait all day. I ask my kids every time I sit down for meal planning what meals they want. Sometimes I get great ideas, and I ask them to help me pick an individual veggies for the source they feel involved. My husband doesn't like meals from frozen. Any ideas how to keep it tasting the same as fresh? Um, I would say, it changes so much based on what the meal is. So I personally don't really like to freeze like pastas. I think they can sometimes come out mushy. Um, but the sauces I think are great. It could also be the way it's stored. I know some people um, like to vacuum seal. The more air you can get out of there, it seems to help preserve the freshness. If you want to write to me, email me with some of the meals that he doesn't like. I might be able to help you. But it can vary so much. Let's see. Oh, I think we're at the bottom now. My easy last second meals are pizza, encore entrees. I'm not sure what those are. Frozen veggie or those frozen stir fry meals with extra frozen veggies. What are yours? So my easy like last second meals are a couple different things. So one of my favorites is to do stir fry. I really do love the Costco it's grilled chicken on skewers. So I will just remove that from the skewers, chop it up. I'll get frozen mixed vegetables, warm those up, and cook some rice in the Instant Pot. And then I'll combine them all together and make a stir fry. Um, I will also do another thing I love is when we have like random leftovers. So I pull them all out and we I just let the kids and, my husband pick and choose what they want to have. Um, we also do the sheet pan dinners a lot. Um, so just random, the random veggies that are hanging around with whatever protein we have. And then another thing we do, we are gluten and dairy free right now. Um, but we have found, I know not everyone, is gluten and dairy free, but I did have some people asking for specifics. So I thought, spaghetti and like sauce was one of our easy go-tos, or like a meat sauce. I thought that was out when we had to move away from gluten, but we've actually found some brands that are pretty good. We've found Bonza, which is it was like it was tolerable. It wasn't terrible, but it like you didn't actually think you were eating spaghetti. Um, and we just found another brand called Jovial, which I really love for spaghetti. So that has probably, since I found that, that has probably been our go-to recipe lately for easy nights. Just because we were without it for so long, we missed it. um, but then those are also the nights when I like to go to, the freezer and see what kind of freezer meals I have. Um, there are a lot of great resources for freezer meals on YouTube. A friend of mine actually has, I think it's like Freezer Meals 101. She has tons of videos and great like tutorials, and she'll do a video on how to make like 50 meals at once. It's amazing. Um, so Bonza pasta is great. Yeah, it wasn't bad. I will say I prefer Jovial now that we found it, but Bonza was good. I didn't hate it. I would eat it for sure. Stir fries, my go-to quick meal, imitation crab, frozen Asian veggies mix. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah. Stir fry is so easy, and it's so easy to just keep that stuff, around. So anyway, I hope tonight has been helpful. What's your friend's name on YouTube for the freezer meals? I'm pretty sure it's Freezer Meals 101 is her channel. Sharla Kostelnik is her name, but I think she just goes by Freezer Meals 101. And I'm sure there are lots of others too. And I can even, let me write that down. I'll add a link to that as well so that you can find her easily. But if you have any other questions, oh, you're very welcome. If you have any other questions, feel free to shoot me. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, Charlene, if you have a question. And anyone else, feel free to pop them in. I don't have to rush off anywhere. I just don't want to, bore you with blabbing if there's nothing if there's nothing else to say. But if you do have a question after we sign off, you think of something, you are more than welcome to email me anytime, of course. Okay, Charlene says, you mentioned cooking protein for the week, but do you freeze it or keep it in the fridge? So you could do either. You really could do either. I tend to, we go through so much food so fast, I tend to keep ours in the fridge. But you could do a big batch and, you know, store it in the freezer. The only thing with that is, of course, staying on top of it. I think it's best when you can keep an inventory of what is in the freezer, because otherwise, so it's where good food can go to die. Unfortunately, in our house, at least, sometimes it gets, lost under who knows what. Um, but yeah, that can work out really, really well. Oh, thank you for sharing that link. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's her channel. That looks right. Um, Yeah, Charlene says it never occurred to me to cook the meat when I get it and freeze it. That's another great thing for if it is going to go bad soon. I may not want, sometimes I just don't feel like cooking what I had scheduled, but I'll cook the meat before it goes bad, and then I will package it. You can package it into individual servings, and then you can just pull out, what you need when you need it, or you can package it into like meal size servings. I don't even bother with individual anymore because there's just so many of us. But I'm sure eventually when when it's just my husband and I again, I won't I won't freeze it in such gigantic quantities. But yeah, that is a great way to not lose that food before it goes bad. So Charlene says cooking the meat is half the issue for me. Yeah. Can we rewatch this? Yes, you'll be able to rewatch it. Contractors showed up unannounced to measure walls. Yeah, no problem. I'll be sending out a replay link with all the links to the different things I mentioned. So thank you so much for joining me tonight. It's been so much fun. I hope that some of these you've gotten something valuable from this. If you have, I would love to hear about it. If you could shoot me an email and just kind of tell me what you thought. I feel like I forgot something important. I got distracted by the freaky knock sound and thought I might, be facing my doom. So I feel like I forgot something, but if I did, I will include it if I can remember. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And yes, happy Easter. All right. Thank you. Bye bye.